What if I told you that all the heavy hitters of the main cast have actually all gotten huge hidden power-ups that have been hidden right in plain sight? GEGE has blatantly said it, however many viewers just haven't noticed the power-ups that each of these characters have gotten. And not only will I explain why and how they're so powerful, I'll also provide examples for each and every single character showing that they do have a power-up. So Maki, Hakari, Yuta, Yuji, and so on and so forth. Because it really is crazy just how much stronger they all have become, and in some cases, especially the four that I named, they have become exponentially stronger since we last saw them before the time skip. And I'm seeing so many people not realize that all these characters are going stronger, and they're just so confused, blatantly calling it bad writing and just calling it plot holes, saying how is Yuta this powerful, why is Hakari this powerful? Well, no need to worry, I'll be explaining all that today, so this is definitely one you're going to want to watch all the way until the end. So hey, do your boy solid and leave a like, it helps out a ton, thank you. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality JJK content just like this, a ton of crazy theory videos, spoiler videos on chapters when they come out, power scaling videos, analysis videos, because less than 10% of people who actually watch my channel are subscribed. So if you love JJK, believe me, you will not regret subscribing. And of course, thank you to these special members of the channel. Let us get right into this video. So before I actually provide evidence on how each character individually has gotten stronger, let me just talk about generally why every single character is way more powerful than we last saw them since the time skip. The most important thing to note is that a lot of these characters are still incredibly young. Hakari is around 17, 18, Yuta and Maki are about 16 respectively, and even Yuji is only 15. Yes, as crazy as that sounds, he's just a 15-year-old. I think he's approaching 16 soon, if not already 16. So because of that, these young cats actually have a lot of potential, and they still have a lot of power that's not refined or not even brought to the surface yet, because again, they're young. I mean, just look at Gojo when he was 16, look how strong he was and compare him to now. It's like they're worlds apart, and we even see Gojo, the difference between when he was 16, 17, and 18 during those time skips. Just 1 year was enough to make Gojo an absolute god, where he actually outright became the strongest there is. And this more so applies to certain characters than others. So let's say, for example, Yuta. Yuta has the most potential in the series. I don't think this can be argued with anyone. And I guess I should specifically say untapped potential is the key thing, but to be honest, even just potential in general, I would honestly say he probably has the most. I mean, he became a special grade when he didn't even know what Jujutsu sorcery was, just a few months into actually trying to become a sorcerer. Then after he actually lost Riken and became a grade 4, in just 4 months time, he went from grade 4 to special grade level sorcerer. That is insane. And again, I want to remind you, he's not like every other character in Jujutsu Kaisen who's been training since they were a kid. They were raised in all these Jujutsu families, they've known about sorcery since they were kids. Yuta was just thrown into this world randomly, and he became that powerful that fast. And again, it's the same case for a lot of these kids, like Yuji, Maki, and Hakari. The fact that they're actual special grade level combatants is just insane, because again, they're kids, they haven't even hit 18 yet. And yes, I actually double checked it, Hakari is 17. It doesn't seem like he's even 18 yet. And just compare this to the other strongest sorcerers of the modern day, where they're in their late 20s and 30s and some even in their 40s, and only then did they actually reach grade 1. These characters are all special grade level, and they're just kids. I mean, hell, by this point, most of the characters who reached their peak at grade 1 weren't even semi-grade 1 or even grade 2 at this point. So that's the first thing. All of these young sorcerers have immense potential. The second point is this month in particular is not comparable to any other month that has come before it at all. These guys aren't just training for some event like Goodwill. They're not just training generally just to get stronger. They are training to fight Ryomen Sukuna and Kenjaku for the fight of their lives. Mainly Ryomen Sukuna, the strongest sorcerer throughout history, who rivals Gojo himself. Do you really think they're not going to be training as hard as humanly possible in the next month? I guarantee you, over this month, they have trained harder than they ever have in their entire lives. And that's crazy to think that even someone like Yuta, who just in 4 months goes from grade 4 to special grade, now imagine if you gave him a whole month to train, but you actually make him train for the fight of his life and give him the most intense training possible. And the same goes for Maki, Hakari, and Yuji. For example, I'm sure Hakari was keeping up with his training, but he's definitely probably being lax with it if he really was even training that much at all. Whereas now for the next month, knowing he's going to go into a life and death battle, he was probably training as hard as humanly possible. And here's the third point. They aren't just training alone, or they're not just training with some poor resources, they are training with the smartest characters in the entire series, the most experienced characters in the entire series, the best teachers in the entire series, and of course the strongest characters of the day, just a whole bunch of grade 1s. All of these characters are actually teaming up together to all train together, which of course is going to drastically increase the efficiency of training. I mean, hell, we saw when Yuji was training, he was actually training with Kusakabe. Who's to say Yuji wasn't also training with Maki, or Yuta, or Hakari, even Meme, because we saw she was sitting there too. These things do matter. Training alone and training with the strongest characters in the verse and also the smartest characters in the verse is going to drastically increase how efficient your training is going to be and increase the effectiveness of it. So when you factor all these things into account, these characters have an immense untapped potential. They're spending the next month training for their lives, knowing that they are going to either live or die with the upcoming battle against the strongest sorcerer in all of history. And all of these monsters are actually training together, and on top of the fact that they also have the best, most experienced, and strongest teachers in the world teaching them. That's why it's not a surprised that over the next month these characters became so powerful. It is not at all. As a matter of fact, I think it would be insanely weird if the characters were even relative to how powerful they were from 1 month ago when they had started training, because then it's like, what the hell were you doing for the past month if you've barely gotten stronger, especially with all of the resources at hand and with the stakes being as high as they are. And the last reason that I'm gonna give, and by the way, I correctly predicted this a very long time ago. As soon as the time skip happened, I actually called it that this is what GEGE was gonna do. This time skip is basically a way for GEGE to excuse any and all plot inconsistencies and power scaling inconsistencies that come with this final arc. Certain characters shouldn't be as strong as they are, and I will get into this when I talk about Yuta and Hakari, because they did feats recently that I guarantee you pre-time skip they could not do, and had they done, it would have been a massive plot hole. Yet here they both did it. And what's going to be the explanation that GEGE can just throw away when we see all these characters so powerful? Oh, they've had a month to train, they've just gotten way stronger. And way stronger have they got it. That's why this 1 month time skip exists. I know a lot of people were so confused saying, why did this 1 month time skip exist? We're not even coming back to it. Was there ever even a point of it? We could have just gone 3 days, we could have just gone a week. The reason that 1 month exists is because it is enough time for the characters to grow drastically stronger, again, given all the circumstances I've given, and it's something that GEGE can just fall back to easily. Oh, Yuta shouldn't be that powerful? He was struggling against Ryu in terms of power and reaction speed? Yeah, he's had a month to train. Now he would just one-shot Ryu in base. He doesn't even need Rika. Now to get into each character individually and to explain how much stronger they've become and the evidence for it. First character I actually want to talk about is Kinji Hakari, who has gone exponentially stronger than we last saw him, and we've already seen it in action in the story itself. Now I do want to clarify, if you are someone who actually thinks Hakari is special grade level already, and I specifically mean in base, obviously in Jackpot he's easily special grade level, the whole point is base, because most people, myself included, actually just put his base, at least pre-time skip, only at high grade 1, and I'm being pretty generous, I put him at an extremely high level of grade 1, even comparing him physically to characters such as Yuji, obviously before Yuji's own power up, which a lot of people don't do. However, I do understand that there is a small but very vocal minority that do believe that even in base, Kinji Hakari is already special grade level, and he would one-shot any grade 1 sorcerer like Naobito or Naoya with ease. He doesn't even need his Jackpot or domain expansion. If you're someone who believes that, which is totally fine, I don't agree with it, but that's fair, you're okay to believe whatever you want. I'd actually recommend skipping the Hakari section of the video, because this is for the people who actually think he's grade 1 in base. Now to continue, why is it important that he's grade 1 in base? Well, the point is, Hakari, yes, is very powerful in base, but he's not exactly Maki level or anything crazy like that, right? He probably doesn't compare to certain special grade characters, probably not even, let's say, Yuta has partially manifested Rika and is also incredibly powerful in his own base as well. And we actually got to see this when he was fighting Charles. Now, in all fairness, Charles himself did actually confirm that had Hakari been going serious right from the beginning, he could have just beaten him in one punch and blitzed him. However, Hakari was taking it easy and let Charles get 1 second into the future, and ever since he got that 1 second and then Hakari starts taking it seriously, Kinji actually does lose to Charles in base until he actually got his Jackpot, then absolutely obliterated Charles in one shot. Now granted, 1 second to the future is pretty crazy, like it is a pretty insane head start to have, and of course off that Charles was able to keep getting more seconds into the future, even though Hakari did actually start to take it seriously. But the point being, I just don't see a world where characters like Maki, Yuji after his big power up, or even base Yuta struggling that much against someone like Charles just because he has a second into the future, or you know what, give Charles 10 seconds into the future. I don't think he's even doing a bit of damage to Yuta in base who has a partially manifested Rika, or even just Yuta's regular base. He's just that powerful. Yuta is an absolute tank in base. And again, Kinji Hakari is not weak by any means. He is insanely powerful. I think his base is insanely top tier amongst the modern day sorcerers, and I do put it at the highest category of grade 1, which even some of you watching may actually disagree with, since that would be the category where certain characters, let's say Domain Expansion Megumi, Yuji, Choso, and even Naobito would go, though Naobito would be very high among them. And even more evidence for this is that GEGE actually gave Hakari Jackpot in the beginning to actually fight Kashimo. He didn't have him fight Kashimo from the beginning in base, because had he done so, Kinji Hakari would have actually died instantly, just like how Panda did. That's why Hakari started in Jackpot. It was simply for giving him a chance to win, because we all know how a grade 1 sorcerer would do against a special grade level sorcerer like Kashimo in base, as we saw with Maki and Ogi and Maki and the Zenin clan. And this is actually further clarified when we see base Hakari actually get absolutely obliterated by Kashimo when he actually has the increased probability. So even though he kept dying again and again in base, because he had increased probability, this actually kept reviving him, so it didn't matter if he was losing, because he kept resurrecting, it basically stalled out enough until he actually hit a Jackpot. That's the thing about Kinji Hakari that most people don't realize. Once he's actually hitting his first Jackpot, his domain is rigged to not just keep him alive with his increased probability and increased spins, but it's just rigged to hit Jackpots very quickly, and once you hit that first one, you're going to keep hitting them non-stop over and over. But the point is, we saw Kinji Hakari in his initial base, without increased probability or increased spins, actually survive a decent amount of time against Urume, someone who's special grade level, and the fight actually lasted the entire time that Kashimo vs Sukuna lasted. Now granted, it wasn't that long, but it was still pretty long. Kashimo vs Sukuna was a decently long fight, and Kinji Hakari actually stalled a special grade character in base, which shouldn't have been possible given everything we knew about him before. Do you really think Urume would lose to Charles just because Charles starts with 1 second in the future. I don't care how much time you give Charles, he gets one shot by Urume's Frost Calm, especially if it's at max output. What I'm trying to say is that over the past month, Kinji Hakari, his base has gone way stronger. I don't think his base is actually grade 1 level anymore. Maybe I wouldn't put it exactly at special grade, but it would at least be far beyond grade 1 considering the fact that he's able to stall out Urume that long in base without any of the benefits of increased probability or increased spins. That is phenomenal. Seriously, I don't think many people realized how insane that feat was from Hakari. And it's possible that his jackpot also got stronger as well, because yes, his jackpot already has infinite cursed energy, so you're questioning, how can it get stronger? Well, it can get stronger if he actually refines the cursed energy and increases the attacks in each hit, because that is a thing that jackpot doesn't give, at least I don't think it does. It doesn't give you infinite refinement. That is something you can still improve upon. Now let's get into Yuta Akatsu. Now I already touched a bit on Yuta already in the beginning, saying how he's got immense potential. He went from grade 4 to special grade in just 4 months of regular training with Miguel. So if you give him a month with the best sorcerers in the world, the strongest characters in the world, you take into account that he's a prodigy said by the narrator, he's got immense potential, and he's training as hard as he's ever done. It's no wonder that he's so powerful physically, because before Yuta, at least in terms of physical feats, was comparable to characters such as Ryu and Uro, which is objective, because blatantly him and Ryu are actually just going hand to hand in terms of just reaction speed and regular speed, and they're just keeping up with each other very easily. And you could actually make the argument, though I probably wouldn't, that Ryu is faster, because when Ryu was actually at death's door and had no cursed energy and was about to pass out already, and Yuta was at full HP, fully healed up and had all his cursed energy at the end of their fight because Rika actually supplied it all to him again, Ryu was keeping up with him pretty easily. And of course we saw with Uro. Uro was reacting easily to base Yuta, as whenever Yuta went to punch her, she was able to react in time, use her sky, and block it. And we even saw Ryu is physically more stronger than Yuta, at least in terms of output only, which makes sense since Ryu has such a high output, and Ryu is actually comparable to characters such as Rika, whereas him and Rika actually went blow for blow in terms of speed, strength, durability, power, endurance, and everything like that, where when they punched each other, they did the exact same amount of damage to each other, and they rebounded back in a similar way. Ryu and Rika were actually fighting, we saw in the background for quite a while. Their speed seems to be even. Point being is Yuta is at least comparable to these characters in terms of physical stats. Of course, when you actually take into account Yuji's full arsenal, he's basically got someone as strong, if not stronger than him. Rika, he's got a whole bunch of curse tools, and of course he's got copy. He would easily destroy characters like Ryu Uro in a 1v1. It's not even a question. It would be a mid diff, if not a low diff, let's be real, because Yuta has insane hacks. It's just not comparable. He's not someone who relies on his physical feats. But what's crazy is the fact that Yuta just blitzed Kenjaku blatantly. I get that he actually caught him off guard, but that doesn't change the fact that Kenjaku saw him. He turned around, he looked at him, activated his curse technique, but Yuta blitzed him and took his back and sliced his head off. Granted, Kenjaku did take a lot of damage from Takaba, so there is that, and again, he was off guard, but it doesn't change the fact that this is insanely impressive that he did this to someone like Kenjaku, who I think Kenjaku scales well above characters like Ryu and Uro. And this is what's confusing a lot of people, saying, how could someone like Yuta, who's only comparable to these characters in terms of speed and strength, do that to someone like Kenjaku, who scales well above them? And what's even crazier is the fact that Yuta confidently thought that he and Rika could actually stall out Mahoraga and Agito. And I want to clarify, this statement from Yuta is 1000 times crazier than the Kenjaku one, and that's why I'm so confused why people are surprised by this Kenjaku feat. 15-fingered Sukuna perception blitzed Ryu, and I'm not talking about his technique. He physically was completely behind Ryu and at a great distance as well behind him before Ryu's brain, you can check his eyes, had even comprehended that Sukuna had moved, and he had already activated his technique after he was behind him with pure speed. And this 15-fingered Sukuna is comparable to Mahoraga as we saw during Shibuya, just in terms of physical stats. And now we see a Mahoraga who's now comparable to Gojo and Sukuna in terms of speed and strength, because he's actually amped by Sukuna's cursed energy and output because he's a Shikigami, is that much stronger. So this Mahoraga isn't even comparable to the one in Shibuya, and this Shibuya Mahoraga would instantly blitz and one-shot characters like Uro, Ryu, and of course Sendai version of Yuta just in terms of physical stats. Yuta is not just confident that he can take on this beefed up version of Mahoraga who's way stronger, he's confident that he could actually take on Agito as well. Granted, he didn't say he could beat them, but he was confident that him and Rika could actually stall them for a decent amount of time, and he actually thought he would make a great difference. And Yuta isn't an idiot either. He has been watching Mahoraga and Agito be actually relative to Gojo in terms of physical stats. Of course, they're not as strong as Gojo, but they're at least able to keep up with him, and 20-fingered Sukuna as well, and he's confident, seeing all that he can do it. He's not an idiot. He's not going to go out there if he's just going to instantly die and get in Gojo's way. That one line alone should have told all of you, and I did try to tell everyone during those reviews, that Yuta has gone exponentially stronger just in terms of physical stats, so much so that Yuta's base currently should actually be able to beat Yuta at full power during Sendai, as insane as that sounds, because he should be that much stronger physically, and of course by extension Rika should actually be that much stronger, since of course it is his Shikigami and his own cursed energy and output should actually affect Rika, if not Rika just becoming strong in and of herself. So that's why when everyone called me crazy when I actually said all this when those chapters came out all those months ago in my reviews, and people said, what are you talking about, Kyle? That's ridiculous. But now we're actually getting to see Yuta in base blitz Kenjaku and behead him, and when you take into account everything I said in the first half of this video, it makes complete sense why is this strong after 1 month? So not only does it make sense narratively and of all the evidence I gave, we also saw it in action twice with his own words and of him actually attacking Kenjaku. Now I'm going to keep Maki and Yuji's section very short because I don't want this video to be too long, but the point is Maki may already actually be strong enough in base already considering the feats that we saw, but I actually do believe that Maki can get stronger, and I do think she is a lot stronger than she already was before, since it would be very weird if Maki can just never get stronger and she's just truly at her peak. But whether you think Maki is already strong enough or has gotten way stronger over the past month, it just doesn't change the fact that she's already super powerful, because we even see when Yuta, Hakari, Angel, and Kusakabe and Meimei and everyone were talking, they were actually confident in just sending Maki to be a one-man assassin for Kenjaku, so clearly she's relative to characters such as Kenjaku and Yuta just in terms of the physical stats. Or they wouldn't have said that, right? Like I said with the Yuta part, sometimes you don't even need to see them in action, just from the fact that they're confident Maki could actually at least stall Kenjaku. That in and of itself says so much about how strong she is currently. And it's the same with Yuji. Now Yuji just got his power up against Sukuna and he was already relative to Maki in terms of physical stats. Granted, he wasn't as strong as Maki. I want to clarify that because in the past when I said they're relative, people took that to mean that I'm saying that they're equally as strong. I'm definitely not. All I'm saying is when Maki went at her full power, Yuji was able to keep up with her, which means he's relative to her. Does that mean he's as physically strong as Maki? Absolutely not. Maki is still stronger in terms of all the stats. However, the difference isn't so gargantuanly big that Yuji can't even keep up with them or they're just too fast for him. He's at least somewhat relative to that level. And that was when Yuji just got that power up in that instant. If he trains with it and gets stronger with his power up, who knows how much stronger he is physically after this 1 month, after training with it. And of course, that's not even taking into account the fact that he's probably got new curse techniques, curse tools, and who knows what else he's got, right? I've made so many videos on Yuji, I'm not going to expand on it any more than I already have, but if you are curious, I've made a ton of videos on it. But hey, if you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, it helps out a ton, thank you. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for a ton of videos just like this, a ton of crazy theory videos, spoiler videos on chapters when they come out, power scaling videos like this one, analysis videos, because like I said in the video, over 90% of people who actually watch my channel aren't subscribed. So if you love JJK, believe me, you will not regret subscribing to this channel. And of course, thank you to the special members of the channel, it is much appreciated, guys. And if you've watched this far, you remember the Higuruma fan club, let me know in the comments down below. That's all from me, take care and have a nice day.